Hey there, Wargamers, and welcome back to another Wargames Delivered video. Be sure to visit us at wargamesdelivered.com to get the paints and supplies used in this video, and also to refer a friend. You guys will both get a $15 discount, and with that, let's get into the video. In this video, I'll show you how to paint some Canoptek Scarabs from the Necron army using an airbrush to create a glowing effect on their power supplies. These guys are a fairly weak fast attack unit in the game, and they're great for tying up your opponent and holding an objective. First, let's talk about the tools you'll need for this project. You'll need an airbrush, a compressor, airbrush cleaner, and a selection of acrylic paints. You'll also need a mask to protect your lungs from the paint fumes. Before I start talking about the painting process, it's important to note that this technique can be a bit tricky at first, so it's a good idea to practice on a spare model or a piece of plastic before you start working on your actual scarabs. Now into the painting process. First, prime your scarabs with a black or a dark gray primer. This will provide a good base for us to build up from, and we will create natural shadows once the metallic steps have been applied. And here we're simply heavily dry brushing the entirety of the model with gunmetal to create a nice base for our scarabs. If you watch my Necron Warrior video, you'll notice I use the same exact technique on that mini as well. With the first gunmetal layer done, we'll go ahead and switch over to a brighter metallic, moving on to plate mail metal, and we're using this the exact same way that we did before, the same exact dry brushing technique, except we're going to apply this a bit lighter than the gunmetal. We do still want that gunmetal showing through though on some of the more recessed areas, so keep that in mind while working on this step and really focus on highlighting the front halves of the scarabs. And now we'll quickly add some shadows and create some light weathering using dark tone from the wash line, and simply cover the entire mini with this wash to bring the color back down a bit. Give this about 30 minutes to dry before moving on to the next step. For anyone interested in trying out any of these paints for yourself, we have a promotion active right now for all of the Army Painter paint lines over on our website at wargamesdelivered.com, where if you buy 6, you'll get 3 free paints of your choice with your order. Link for this promotion is in the description below. And now we'll do a bit of detailed base coating using jungle green from the acrylic line. I'm using this color to dot all of the eyes of the scarabs. You will need about 2 to 3 thin coats of this to get a nice even color on the eyes, so take your time, and as soon as you finish the last scarab, start applying the second coat on the first scarab you painted to get this done efficiently. Try to use a brush with good control so you don't accidentally paint any of the metallic areas, but if you do make any mistakes, you can easily clean them up with gunmetal or dark tone. You will want a pretty precise brush for this step. I'm using a kind of old precise detail brush that can still kind of come to a fine point, so that is what I would recommend here. Now, with my Necron Warrior, I used gray and white acrylics to prep the green areas for the speed paint. We'll be doing a slightly different method for a glowing green effect here using our airbrush in the next step. You can substitute a primer can here if you don't own an airbrush, but it is a lot harder to pull off this technique and not just spray the entire mini with the spray can. We also have a pre-order for the Army Painter Speed Paint 2.0 complete set active at the moment. This set contains all 89 new speed paint colors available in the new formula, plus 1 large bottle of speed paint medium to get you started. Be sure to get your pre-orders in before they release on May 27th. Once those eyes are dry, we can move on to our airbrush steps, and first off, we're going to want to try to create a gradient and give the impression of a glow effect. Starting off with Air Greenskin and a drop of Air Matte White. Mix this until you have a medium light green color, and once your paint is ready, use your airbrush to apply a light coat to the circular power supply of the scarabs. This will create a base layer for your glowing effect, and try to aim as close to the center as possible and keep the airbrush at about 2 to 3 inches away from the model. You can mix this together with an old brush. I'm also using about 1 to 2 drops of speed paint medium here, just to get a little bit extra flow in there as well. And I'm using an old brush to mix it up as well. You can also mix this separately and then drop it into your airbrush, but you can absolutely mix it within your airbrush as well. Using a smaller nozzle on your airbrush, try to apply a concentrated amount of paint to these areas, gradually building up the intensity of the color. You can also use a darker green to create shadows and depth around the edges of these areas. And as you can see, we're getting a nice quick glowing effect that can be really tricky to pull off with just a brush. I would suggest trying this on a practice model first so you can test it out and really perfect your airbrushing before you go into your model. And of course, be sure to hit all of the power supplies on these Scarabs, and then we will go ahead and clean out our airbrush before we switch over to the next step here. Next, switch to a lighter green and repeat the process, concentrating the paint on the center of the glowing areas. This will create a bright, intense glow right at the center of the power supplies. With our airbrush steps finished, we'll go back to our brush and our acrylics to really enhance the glow effect, using about a 3:1 ratio of matte white and jungle green to block in the power orbs and the eyes of the Scarabs now. And I'm also using this color to edge highlight the rims of the carapace surrounding the power orbs. Again, this just helps add to the intensity of the glowing effect. And again, as with all acrylic steps, you'll most likely need about 2 to 3 thin coats to get a nice, even light green finish on these areas. But all in all, this mini didn't take very long, and I'm very pleased with the end result, especially when you're going to be painting about 3 to 6 of these guys at a time. Remember, this technique can take some practice to perfect, so don't be afraid to experiment a bit and try different techniques until you get the desired result that you're looking for. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more painting tutorials, and also be sure to check out the top link in the description for the giveaway attached to this video. Thanks again, guys, and happy wargaming!